All right, here we'll talk about opioids as a class of medications, some of their effects and where they have their effect in the body. And then in the next video, we'll talk about individual opioids and why you choose one over another. Just a note on opioid terminology before we start. So we use opioids to refer to this class of medications. You may have also heard the word opiate. Opiate is, those are the substances that can be directly extracted from the opium poppy. So those are things like morphine, codeine, and there are lots of others as well that would be in this class, but it excludes the semi-synthetic and the synthetic opioids. So we use the word opioid to refer to the entire class of medications. And then the endorphins are your body's endogenously produced agonists of the opioid receptors. This is what an opioid receptor looks like. So it is a G protein coupled receptor. This has 7 transmembrane segments. And importantly, since it's G protein coupled, it acts by a second messenger system. So when an opioid binds somewhere, there will be a binding site on the outside of the cell. This changes the conformation of this receptor, and it will cause a second messenger cascade to affect various things in the cell. In general, the opioids have inhibitory effects on cells. So this second messenger pathway will do things that slow down or stop communication between cells. These receptors can be found in the synapse itself, so either postsynaptically or presynaptically. And then there are also extrasynaptic opioid receptors that allow other cells to come in and communicate or alter the communication between this pathway. So one thing that might happen is in this postsynaptic receptor, an opioid may bind to this receptor, and the G protein coupled cascade will cause this ion channel to allow potassium to leave the cell. And then that will obviously leave the inside of the cell hyperpolarized and less likely to be depolarized by excitatory signals. Something that may occur on the presynaptic side is, again, binding of the opioid to this receptor, and then maybe this receptor would usually allow calcium to come through, but instead this is blocked by having opioid bound to this opioid receptor. So then maybe you're not able to exocytose your neurotransmitters from this cell anymore. So again, this would be an example of how the opioid would have an inhibitory effect on the communication between these two cells. There are a number of different opioid receptors as well. So we have mu1, mu2, kappa, delta, and there are others as well. But these ones are the main receptors that we are interested in for the effects of anesthesia. It is worth looking at tables that describe what the main effects of each one of these receptors is, because analgesia will be a different effect than apnea, and certain receptors are more prone to causing some of those. And I'm not going to talk about them in this video because it would just be me reading off a list for you, but it is worth taking a look at and potentially trying to remember some of the key points from that.